If you find that you've ever craved to be more persuasive and influential or less susceptible to external persuasion, then this is the perfect topic for you. I'm going to talk about Robert Cialdini, who has researched and written extensively about influence and persuasion. And his findings have applications in everything from marketing strategies, making friends and influencing people, to political campaigns, including the 2012 Obama administration campaign, which he was a part of. He outlines 7 principles of influence, and they're foundational concepts in psychology and marketing, and have applications in a range of arenas. So I'm going to go through the 7 and explain some studies and some examples and how you can apply it in your own life. So the first principle is the principle of reciprocity, whereby people feel compelled to act in kind ways and return kind gestures when they have been given a kind gesture. So this was taken from a study whereby the researchers sent Christmas cards to random strangers, and they found that a lot of random strangers sent Christmas cards back, even though they didn't know them or anything, because we feel as humans compelled to act in kind ways when somebody's being kind to us. So real world implications of that is where when you get a gift, for example, with businesses, they give you a gift and then you feel compelled to buy their product or engage in business with them. In stores, when they give free samples, it's a similar process at work. If you wanted to use the reciprocity principle, you could, for example, offer your neighbor some cake that you've baked, and the next time, perhaps when you need a favor, they'll be more likely to return the favor because they feel obliged because you've started the kind act. The second principle is commitment and consistency, or more commonly known as the foot in the door technique. So this a study was done whereby the researchers asked people to place a small sign on their window to support safe driving. The ones that agreed to place the small sign were more likely to later on agree to place a large unsightly billboard on their lawn, even though it was unsightly, because they've done the initial step. The reason why this principle works is because people want to remain consistent. So once you've done a small action that speaks to a certain ideal perhaps that you want to present, you're more likely to do a bigger action to remain consistent. So charities might do this, for example. They just ask you to sign a petition, and then they might ask you to donate, and then they might ask bigger and bigger favors. So that's the foot in the door technique and the second influence. The third principle is social proof, and this, I guarantee, takes place pretty much every single day in your life. This principle is based on the idea that people tend to follow the actions of others, especially in uncertain circumstances. So what the psychologists did was they played a film with a laugh track and one without, and they found that the people with the laugh track were more likely to laugh at the funny moments. And it was the exact same film, because you're influenced by other people's reactions, especially in ambiguous circumstances. So for example, how this might play out in your own life is if you see 2 restaurants next to each other and you see one that is full of people and ones that are empty, you're more likely to go to the one that's full of people. So if you ever want to use the social proof principle in your own life, you might, for example, at a meeting, suggest an idea and say, so-and-so competitor is doing this idea and they're achieving great results. But hopefully be honest about it. So the fourth principle is kind of scary and has had real-world catastrophic effects, and that's the tendency of people to respect authority and to follow authority's advice even when it goes morally against them. And I'm sure you can think of many examples, like war crimes, is where people followed authority blindly even when it felt uncomfortable for them. A very famous experiment got people to administer electric shocks to what they had thought was a real person. It was just a pre-recorded voice, but they didn't know. and they found that people were administering progressively higher electric shocks even when the person was yelling and screaming, despite their discomfort and feeling morally wrong about it because the authority figure was telling them to. One way you can implement this in your own life is to say you read in a study something that you are trying to express to someone, or for example in a job interview, if you dress up with more authority, you're more likely to command respect than if you go with casual gear. The fifth one is the similarity principle, in which we're more likely to be influenced by individuals who are either similar to us or who we like more. So even if something as simple as sharing the same name or birthday or something as simple as that, we're more likely to be influenced by them. So for example, I'm sure that happens often in your own life. When you're meeting somebody for the first time, you try and establish where they're from, or you try and establish some point of similarity. So if you're trying to negotiate a deal, maybe find out what that person has in common with you before doing so. Sixth principle plays out so often in life, and that's scarcity, whereby people are more likely to value something if it's rare or time sensitive or in small quantities. So the researchers showed two cookie jars and asked people to rate which cookies were better. One cookie jar had 10, the other one had 2. And the participants rated the cookie jar with 2 cookies better, even though the cookies were the exact same. Companies use this principle all the time when they say limited edition, get it while stocks last, don't miss it. So one way you can use it in your own life is, for example, if you're inviting somebody, you can tell them, you have to decide by today because the number of seats. If you're inviting somebody out to a restaurant, for example, you can tell them you have to decide by today because the number of seats are going to go tomorrow. So the second principle is unity or shared identity, where people are more likely to say yes if they feel a sense of unity or belonging or community. So researchers found that people were more likely to donate to a cause when the message emphasized a shared identity, like support your fellow whatever, your fellow students, your fellow colleagues at this job, or fellow doctors, anything like that. So in political campaigns, this often happens, whereby they rally the supporters based on a shared identity. So if you, for example, are a team leader and you want to rally your team, you could say, we as a team have a chance to make a real difference. Let's work together. This idea of belonging and community. So I hope this has given you a little overview of Robert Cialdini's ideas of persuasion and influence. He has a very good book called Persuasion, which I totally recommend you read and get more in depth in any of them. If you want more information about any of them, let me know in the comments. As you've learned them, try and see what examples in real life you find from each of these principles. I guarantee you'll start to see them now and perhaps be a little less easily manipulated. I hope you've enjoyed this, and let me know what you think in the comments.